Debuting in Meta Duel and making his place in any game roster ever since, it is RBT-05M Chrono Rabbit, with a kit of Beam, Shoot Trap, Guard Boost, and the leg ability of Auto Charge on wheel legs, which passively fills Metaforce gauge every turn. Now, Chrono Rabbit is a curious and curiouser case, unfortunately, in the sense that because he has such a wide kit, it is really hard to make use of him rather feasibly. Beam, of course, is an optic-based shooting part, so it'll have a ×2 damage bonus at 30% charge and a ×3 at 100% charge. So this will be his primary and, for the most part, only source of damage dealing anywhere on the build if you use him as a pure set. And on top of that, because it is a head use, it does mean he has a limited number of charges before he runs out, and he's essentially done. The leg ability of auto charge does complement that pretty nicely, however, as after a few turns to charge, you can use it relatively decently and have that high damage output, even with the few limited run charges that you have of it. Shoot Trap is a setup-based skill that basically is designed for passive aggression, which is more or less Chrono Rabbit's entire responsibility while on the field and his dedicated role. Shoot Trap will basically set a plant on the enemy's side, and any time that the enemy uses a shooting-based skill, it will passively damage them to the part that they're using. If they end up breaking the part, it will end up canceling the skill entirely. However, Shoot Trap also has a limited number of charges itself relative to the rank of the part, so of course at 5-star it means it'll have 5 charges. But honestly, Shoot Trap is a really nice form of passive-aggressive damage. Not that you should make it your consistent form of damage or make use of it on every team, but in the rare senses where you are required to use a setup skill in some way, Shoot Trap is honestly still pretty okay to make use of, and you still really can't go wrong with it in the cases where you have to. You just have to make sure that when you're using it, whoever is on your enemy side is using the shooting parts. So naturally, you don't want to equip Shoot Trap if about 80% of your enemy's parts are all melee based, for instance. Guard Boost, on the other hand, is a support skill, which kind of rounds out Chrono Rabbit's rather scattered kit. And what Guard Boost does, it massively boosts the shoot and melee resist stats of the parts by 20%, which means that when they guard a blow or attempt to graze the attack to dodge it, they take significantly less damage. So as stated, Chrono Rabbit's primary role on the field isn't necessarily to fight, but rather to support. And in the rare senses where he can, I'd say he does it decently well. Not professionally or great like, say, for instance, Blazermate in the healing role or Otogi Princess in healing role, but for what Chrono Rabbit can do, he does an alright job at it. As a pure set score, I would rate him a pretty solid 4.5 out of 10. Again, he has a really scattered kit between a shooting skill, a setup skill, and a support skill with wheel legs, so it means he already has he's going to have a really hard time trying to find that balance in how to use his parts efficiently, but also with the wheel legs, of course, it means he's not going to be great on, he's going to be struggling on about 80% of the terrains, except for maybe 1 or 2 at best, and that also is including Cyber, where everybody has S rank on it. As mixed parts, on the other hand, I would rate him much higher at a 5.5 out of 10. So while his head and arms may not be super useful, his legs, on the other hand, are. So for any particular build that you're going after that is Metaforce reliant, so that includes Press, Break, Ghost, Goat Shot, Laser, Hyper Beam, Beam, whatever it may be, as long as the part is Metaforce reliant, you could make use of these legs relatively decently with that passive Metaforce sustain in the cases where you perhaps can't fit it very easily on your team, even with Metal personality. So if you're going to farm for Chrono Rabbit, I'd say do it up to, farm him up to 3-star, just for the sake of having the parts raised in the rare sense you will need them. But compared to most other bots out there with scattered kits, I don't think Chrono Rabbit really will bring a lot to the table that particularly sets him up as someone that you'd want to make use of.